Hello, I'm Palak. Today we are going to learn classes of organic compound and functional groups. Here, class is same as name. Functional group is a representation into atomic formation of it, like periodic table representation with the bonding. Or another sense, you can say structure. Then we're gonna also cover IUPAC prefix. Basically, you use while naming the organic compound of, this prefix and gets before the main chain naming. And another thing would be IUPAC suffix. And the last and final thing is examples, so it can make better sense to all of you. The simplest class of organic compound is called alkane. And the functional group is simply a single carbon or a single bonded two carbon or more with each other. So just a single carbon bond with anything. It does not have prefix, it has suffix. Suffix is A and E. Basically, you don't have to remember extra for suffix. You can just simply try to remember the name of the class, and then right before S, you will see the three letter A and E is part of the name as well. So there is no special things that you have to remember as long as you remember class name. Now the example is CH3. CH3, this is called ethane. Please notice the suffix came later as A and E and became a part of the name. Now this eth basically means two carbon, and we'll learn this in the next video. But if you simply want me to go over, it is just as simple as one carbon is called mass, two carbon is called eth, three carbon is called prop, four carbon is called but, five carbon is called pent, six carbon is called hex, seven carbons called hept, eight carbon is called oct, nine carbon is called nona, and 10 carbon is called dac, 11 carbon is called undac, and 12 carbon is called dudac. And I don't think you'll ever have to go more than 12 carbon. Let's move on and get back to our subject to enter class name again. The second class name we're gonna learn is called alkene. basically they all sound like, but there is a difference. See, it's alkanes. It's alkanes. This is called alkenes, and this basically means double bond between carbon. And we all know carbon can maximum have 4 bonds, right? So there is a double bond between 2 carbon. All those compounds are called alkenes. And it does not have prefix, but it does have suffix ene. And you don't have to remember especially, because if you remember the class name, it's part of it, right? Right here. Let's see. ene. You see, notice that? Perfect. And so let's name same way. We'll use 2 carbons. H, 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 and H, and we will call ethene instead of ethane. Alright, the next class we are going to learn is alkynes. And this is a triple bond and triple bond between 2 carbons. And it does not have prefix, it never used as prefix. It does, we can have a suffix which is y and e, and same as the alkane and alkenes, alkyne is also have its suffix inside its name. All right, y and e. And if we would give the same examples, well, with the 2 carbons, which is called ese, like we learned right here, with triple bond, and this is called ethane. All right. The next class we will learn is halide. And halide is represented by X, and X can be fluorine, chlorine, bromine, and iodine. All right, and it has a prefix word. It has a prefix. It's called halo for X. All right. So for fluorine, it's fluoro. For chlorine is chloro. Bromine is bromo, and so on. It does not have suffix, and the naming could be like let's do CH3, CH2, 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 Br. And we will call there, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 carbons. So the 4 in Latin is called but, so we'll call it 1 bromo butane. And remember, it is alkane because it doesn't have any double bond. You know, they're carbon-carbon single bond, and bromine is a suffix. So we're going to use bromo is a prefix, so we're going to use suffix as ane. Alright, alkane suffix. Now, if we have a double bond here, then we would call it we will call it 1-bromo, 1-butene. Alright, and so on. If we have a triple bond somewhere, we'll call it butene with Y-N-E. Alright, the next class of compound we're going to learn is alcohol, and we are all mostly familiar with alcohol. That's because we have used it in our day-to-day life. Anytime we get hurt, we clean it with antiseptic, and antiseptic is made of some kind of alcohol. There is a nail polish that has an alcohol, some point of alcohol. The hand wipes, all of those has a kind, one or the other compound of an alcohol that kills the germs, right? So we're all aware of alcohol, and if not, there is a one other kind of alcohol. We drink alcohol, right? And that is ethanol we drink. So here you go for alcohol. And it is get represented by OH. It does have prefix. It's called hydroxy. See, and it also has suffix, which the suffix is OL. Now again, like alkane and alkene, the suffix is part of the class name. You see, there you go. So there is no special to memorize on that, but you should memorize hydroxy right there. And now for the naming, we can have CH3, CH2, CH2, CH2OH. All simply I did is I replaced this bromine with OH, and we can call this 1-butanol. All has a single chain, so butanol. Butanol. That's what we call it. Now, let's talk about aldehyde. We all know aldehydes are important because all the ice cream, different flavors, puddings, and we eat, they are aldehydes. That gives a smell of banana. Like we smell banana, that is because of it has a particular kind of aldehyde in it. So aldehydes represent that CHO, and if I really want to show you in the bonding, is it goes like C double bond O H, and then this part joined with the long chain of the carbon. All right. It does have a prefix. The prefix is called formyl. And or oxo. Depends on how you use it. We will learn more in detail when to use suffix, when to use prefix, when we're go over the naming of aldehydes. And it also have a suffix which is 1. Number 1, right? How you spell? O-N-E. Sorry. My bad. Yeah, it has suffix L. Al. And like alcohol, alkane, alkene, and alkynes, it is also a part of the name first. Al. Alright? But the only difference is most of them has it at the end and this one has it at the front. Okay? Now, for example, let's do this. CH3, CH2, CHO. It is important to write O after the H because we all know the hydrogen only have a one bond, and it's not bonded with oxygen. All right. Please keep in mind that every time we are representing aldehyde, we write CHO. We never write COH. All right. COH means CO and then H. This is not how it is bonded. It is bonded C double bond O and then H, and that's why it is written as CHO. Alright, now this has 1, 2, 3. So it has a 3 carbons, and if we go back to over here, 3 is prop, right? So we can say propanol, right? So it will be pro, and it will be propanol. And propane is the same thing as an alkane because it has the same bonding, okay? Alright, the next class we will learn is ketone. Ketones is C double bond O, and then it's bonded with the 2 carbon chain. Basically, from aldehyde, you just remove an hydrogen and replace that bond of hydrogen with carbon or anything else. Okay. Ketone has a prefix oxo, and it does have suffix ONE. And same like other, it is also part of the group name right here. And for example, let's do CH3, CH2, CH2, actually no, C double bond O and CH3. And because it has 1, 2, 3, and 4 carbon, we will call that is bute, and so it's bute, and the C double bond O is on actually a second carbon, so we're going to call butane 2 on. All right. Next group we should learn is, let me think, nitrile and triple bond C. Now this is a very special group. Have you guys heard the quickest poison, KCN? All is this, it is a C triple bond N, and then there is a potassium instead of any carbon. The potassium get attached to it. It is also called a cyno group. So we can use cyno is as a prefix. The suffix, if we want to use as a suffix, we use nitrile. And basically we use the whole name without the s as a suffix. All right. Now, like let's see, for how do we want to name CH3, CH2, 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 CN. All right, so it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All these carbon in the group actually count when we are naming, and we'll learn this more in detail. I'm just saying it right now for the sake of this learning, but we'll learn how the rules apply later, and this all will start making sense of it, right? But right now for you, the only thing important is getting familiar with the class name, the functional representation, prefix or suffix, and then the example is not very much important, but it's given to you, so it helps some people to remember better. And so we're gonna call this pentane, right? We don't have any double bond between carbons, so we're gonna treat this like an alkane. So it's pentane nitrile. This suffix that we took, we just put it down there. So it is just that simple. Next group, we should learn about ether. Let's learn about ether. It's a O bonded with a carbon. That is ether. Ether is basically there is a carbon chain, and then O is a part of the middle. And ether is sometimes has a prefix. You can use sometimes as prefix, and it's called alkoxy. See, it does not have a suffix. Normally, it doesn't have a suffix. So, and there are a common name you can sometimes use as a common name and use ether as is as a suffix. But we kind of going to more likely use an alkoxy because it is that's what kind of IUPAC rules are, and we're not trying to learn the common name of it. We're just trying. This is your learning because you want. This is going to help you learn IUPAC rules and how to name all these organic compounds, and follow those by following that rules. And so this is just a pre setup before actually getting into the learning the IUPAC naming, right? So for let's look into the example of ether. All right, CH3, CH2, CH. then O, and then I'll do the same thing in the backup. H2CH3, and this will call, so this is how the name will go, split into two, and will first, the longest chain will go with this, so we'll say ethoxy, ethoxy, ethane, and there is no space in between, so let me rewrite this. Ethoxy, ethane, and ethane is because there is no double bond between carbons, it's all single bonds, so we're going to consider that as an alkane chain, and that's why it is ethane. Next group we shall, carboxylic acid. Carboxylic acids. And carboxylic acids is C double bond H. That's how it's get represented. The structure of it is C double bond O, then H, and there is an R. And we're good. R dash is basically a long carbon chain with 1 carbon, 2 carbon, 10 carbon, whatever in future you want to put. But yeah, and it has a prefix. Prefix is called carboxy. We'll learn how to use prefix and suffix later when we learn naming. All right, and we also have suffix. Iuc acid is a suffix. So, and if we want to look into an example, CH3, CH2, CH2, C double bond O, then, or then we can, CH3, CH2, CH2, C double bond O, which is 4 carbon, so it's called bute. And there is a simple chain, so ANE, but we have to put ionic acid, so we're gonna remove this E and replace it with OIC acid, so it's called butanoic acid. All right, next organic group we should learn is ester. Let's learn about ester. C double bond, this H is replaced here with R. R basically means guarantee a carbon chain, too long carbon chain. Basically, if we want to represent on structure form, is like this. Alright, and R can be anything. It can be hydrogen, it can be long chain of carbon, it can be alkane, whatever. Now, ester has a prefix which is alkoxycarbonyl. And it is a one word, okay? and it does have a suffix which is OATE. OATE. Now we want to learn the naming. For the naming example, let's do CH3, CH2, C double bond O, CH3. Now in this case we have replaced R1 with CH3 here and this R with SN. Alright, and we want to name them, so we are going to name it like this is a long 1 2 3, so this is going to be one part and this is going to be a second part, so it's going to be 1 2 3 propanoate, and this is methyl, right? So the name will be methyl propanoate. Next group we should learn is let's learn a little bit more complex, but they are not very strong group. We already cover all the strong groups. These are now kind of a little bit here and there, a lot of mix, but they're not they don't represent strongly in the those are not considered very strong groups. So let's do acyl halide. Basically a carbon double bond with oxygen and halide is involved with it, so X. This is called acyl halide group and it has a prefix which is halocarbonyl. Halocarbonyl, and it does have suffix. The suffix is oil halide. Now let's see how they get used in examples so you get better understanding of it. So you'll have CH3, CH2, CH2, CO, Cl. Now for the X, we learned earlier we can use chlorine, bromine, fluorine or iodine instead of X. Over here we are using chlorine, and now the way we want to name is it that we want to consider all these four as a one group and then chlorine as a separate. So 1 2 3 4, so it's but, and it's butane because all is a simple chain, butanil, and then chloride. So this compound is called butanil chloride, and we're using suffix in this one. We didn't learn amines, right? So let's learn about a group called amines, and basically it's NH2, NH, and N. All of that has nitrogen as a part of it is called amine. Alright, and basically it has a prefix which is called amino, and then if we want to use as a suffix, we're going to use amine. And let's give you one of the example. CH3, CH2. Let me put a nitrogen, NH, NH2. So, sorry, there will be just CH1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. And CH2, CH3. And we would call this 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a 4. Total long chain is 4. So it's butane, and this is on the second carbon. So you can say butane to amine. Or we can say 2-butamine. Alright. There is two more that I think you guys should know about it, and they're not used very much, but sometimes you can get across to it. It's good to know. It is amides. Now the difference between amines and amides is C double bond O it attached, and then it has NH2, or it can have C double bond O NH R. R means another longer chain that started with nitrogen. Or C double bond O and R, and then R1 and R2. Okay, so these are all called amides. So whenever there is a nitrogen is attached to a carbonyl group, this is called carbonyl group. This is carbonyl group. C double bond O is a carbonyl group. It's called amides. When it is by itself, it's called amines. Amides do have a suffix which is called amide, and it has a prefix called carbamoyl. CARBAMOYL. Let's see how we use in the naming is CH3, CH2, CH2, C double bond O, and H2. And so we want to name this. We're going to name 1, 2, 3, 4 carbons. So bute. It's butane. Then this is on the and the butane, and then amide. So every time we add amides, we remove the N, and we're gonna do amide. So the whole name is butanamide. The last group that I could think of is nitrous. Basically is NO2. Most of the time this is not a very strong group, so it's not hardly used, and you're always going to use it a prefix as nitro. There is no suffix, and we can just say CH3, CH2, 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 NO2. All right, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 butane and 1 nitro. So it will be called, let me write it properly, 1 nitro butane. Alright, that's it for this video. We'll do quickly review on it. For the quick review, we did cover alkane, which is carbon-carbon single bond, and IUPAC suffix is ane. Then alkene, which is ene. It's carbon-carbon double bonds. Alkynes, carbon-carbon triple bonds. Suffix is YNE. Halides represented by X. You can replace X with chlorine, bromine, iodine, or fluorine. And then it has a prefix halo, so chloro, fluoro, bromo, iodo, like that. Then next group we learned was alcohol. OH is the functional group, and prefix is hydroxy and suffix is ol. We can just write any alkane and then put ol next to it. If the OH is attached to it. Then we learn is aldehyde. Aldehyde has Al as a suffix for IUPAC suffix, and sometimes there are more than one group exists, so we need to use a prefix, and they have formyl or oxo considered as a prefix. We'll learn later how to use the prefix in more detail, but this is for the sake of knowing. Just to remember that formyl and oxo is a prefix and Al is a suffix, and then the example is propanol I gave you. The next group is ketone. The next group is ketones, and for the ketones it's C double bond O, and ONE is a suffix and oxo is a prefix like we had it for aldehydes. We'll learn when to use oxo later when we learn IUPAC naming. The example for ketones is butane 2,1. So the next one is the nitrile group. This is also called cyanide group or cyano, and cyano is a prefix and nitrile is a suffix. So the example of the naming is pentane nitrile. Ether. The next group we learned was ether, which represented by O, 2 bonded with 2 carbon chain. The prefix for it is alkoxy. We do not have a suffix. Normally ether, the name used as a suffix for a common name, but on IUPAC we do not use that. The example for it is ethoxyethane. The next one is carboxylic acid. Just C double bond O, then one bond of that carbon with oxygen, and then that oxygen with hydrogen. It has prefix alkoxy carbonyl and suffix OH. The example of is methyl propanoate. Then acyl halide, which is C double bond O, and then that carbon is bonded with halogen as well, and then it has a suffix oil halide and prefix halocarbonyl. The example of the name I gave is butynyl chloride. The next group we learned is amines, which is NH2. It can be NH, and when it's NH, it basically means there are two R's. So two R's are attached to it, or by itself N, and it can have three of the bonded with carbon. All right, and no hydrogen, and they are called aminos, and amine is a suffix. Prefix is amino, and normally amino used for NH2. Um, the name for the naming example, we use butane 2-amine. The next group we learn is amide, C double bond O, and then C bonded with nitrogen, and that nitrogen is bonded with two double hydrogen, or one hydrogen and a carbon chain, or both of the hydrogen is replaced with the carbon chain. The prefix for it is carbomoyl, and suffix is amide. The name example we use is butane amide. The last group we learn is nitro, and it is represented by NO2 gas, nitro. It has a prefix, it doesn't have suffix. The prefix is nitro, the name itself, and the example of it we learn is 1-nitrobutane. Thank you for watching the video, and please post your question underneath in the comments, and I'll try my best to answer them. You have a nice day.